Hello friends, and welcome back to Scaling Stories. Today, I've got some more highly upvoted posts from Best of Redditor updates for y'all. Like always, I'll be reading you the posts and giving you my opinions, and I'll also be working on building up my Minecraft world at the same time, so I hope you enjoy. Also, I'm currently only in Spotify's creator program, so watching on there would help me out a ton. Thank you so much for your support. Today's story comes from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. It was posted by Substantial by 4881 on November 23rd, 2025, and was titled, Am I the Jerk for telling my sister we were strangers after she eloped and broke all contact with us years ago? Apologies in advance if this post seems disorganized. My head is still reeling from all this. 9 years ago, I was 18 then. My older sister eloped with her then boyfriend. Our parents, we're an immigrant family, were vehemently opposed to her relationship. I remember my being okay with it personally. It wasn't my place. She eloped with her boyfriend and cut off all contact with us. My parents were beside themselves. I tried reaching out to her back then on different platforms, but was blocked. I even reached out to her best friends and asked them if they could at least get me in touch with her. They said they didn't know where she lived now, but that she told them she was happy. She had also left her workplace. Eventually, we all, me and my parents, came to, an unspoken agreement to pretend she was never here, and I blocked her everywhere too. I remember being extra particular to call regularly when I was in college because I was worried about their state of mind. We're now at a place where I can't remember the last time she crossed our minds. Yesterday, my sister knocked on my apartment door. She cried and hugged me when she saw me. I hugged her back initially too. I wasn't really thinking at the time. She was just going on about how much I had changed, how much she missed me all these years. Eventually, I kind of remembered everything and asked her why she was here and who had given her my address. She said she had sworn to them that she wouldn't tell. I asked her why didn't she call first, since whoever gave my address probably gave my phone number too. She said she just wanted to see me in person. I told her we'd gotten over her. Why was she here? She said her issue had only been with our parents, not me. I told her about how I'd been blocked too by her when she left. She told me she was sorry she'd hurt me, but she had wanted a fresh start. Told me I was an uncle to a nephew and a niece. They weren't there at the time. They were at their father's. They recently divorced. She acted surprised that I wouldn't know, said she'd told someone to tell our parents about them. Maybe it was hearing about the divorce that frustrated me more, because if we were going to have gone through all this pain, at least she could have found lasting happiness. I just told her she was a stranger to me now. She said we could have lunch together. She wanted to know all about what I'd been up to. I told her it was best if we continued to have no contact. She didn't act like an older sister when I needed her to, and that we were no longer family. We'd mourned her already, and we were now strangers. She was tearful. She gave me her address and phone number and left. Last night, I spoke to my girlfriend about what had happened. She said she was still my sister, that I shouldn't have just turned her away. I told her she didn't know what we'd gone through in the days after she had eloped, but I still wanted to know here. Am I the jerk? Scaling Stories Corner. So I remember covering this story a while back, but I kind of forgot about it, and it'll be my first time covering it again since doing the manual recordings. I think I only remember covering this up until the first update, and even then I forgot what happened. But just from the original post, I don't think OP was the jerk. His sister blocked him and the rest of the family for over 9 years. She didn't tell him any information about why she did what she did. She just blocked him and moved on with her life. And I think that's devastating if you're OP and you're an 18-year-old. And then, like he said, whoever gave her OP's address must have at least given her his phone number as well. And instead of trying to contact him beforehand to make sure it's okay to meet with him face to face, she showed up right to his doorstep and kind of ambushed him. And that's definitely a choice. And it feels a little manipulative to put someone on the spot like that. What OP said was true. She essentially is a stranger now since she went ghost on him for 9 years. And all she could say to him for that part was that she was just sorry she hurt him. And I understand that some people might be accepting and accept the sister if they were in OP's situation. And that's fine. But just remember that relationships between people, not just family, just people in general, have to be maintained over time and be kept at a steady and good pace. So it's normal to react how OP reacted here. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, What are your parents' thoughts? How do they feel about potential reconciliation? OP says, I haven't told them about this. I don't see the point, I guess. They made their peace with her absence a while back. We all did. Commenter 2 says, what is it that you want to achieve? This is crucial to answering the question. OP says, I don't know. I really had internalized that I'd never see her again. I remember the hurt I had felt at the time. I don't want to lose my headspace, and I don't want to act like everything I went through was okay, that it shouldn't have any meaning or consequences. And, of course, I want her and her kids to be safe and happy too. Commenter 3 says, did she even apologize? Or did she do the classic, it's such a long time ago, you should be over it by now, move? If there's no sincerity, there's no trust that she won't ghost you again. She owes you a full and frank conversation about what happened, her actions, her motivations, and why she continued to block you. Without that, you really have nothing to work with. Good luck. OP says she did apologize. She said she was sorry that she had cut me off, that she never meant for us to lose touch. Her beef was with our parents only. I brought up that she blocked me everywhere, and she was just sobbing and apologizing. I also remember me begging her best friends for info and them saying they had no idea, which I always suspected was them lying because she asked them to. Commenter 4 says, not the jerk. She broke all contact with you for nearly a decade. She treated you as if you were disposable. There was no relationship to salvage. She doesn't get to unilaterally decide to pick you up again just because it works for her. I'm guessing she decided now's a good time because she's getting divorced and, in essence, needs something. Time, attention, connection from you. Ask yourself, if she weren't getting divorced, would she have reached out? You need to figure out who shared your address with her. OP says, I hadn't thought of this, and I've been feeling sick thinking this might be true since I read this. That she wouldn't have ever reached out if she hadn't gotten divorced. Would have been fine without ever seeing me again. Although she didn't ask for anything material during our interaction, I guess she wanted lunch. She thought, after 9 years of almost forgetting I had a sister, I'd be okay with lunch. Commenter 5 says, OP, I wonder if her boyfriend turned husband made her block you all? Could it be that getting away from him might be why she was able to reach out? OP says, I don't know. Back then, she would vouch for him a lot in front of our parents, who really thought he was bad news, so I don't know. She seemed like it was all of her own volition. Commenter 6 says, absolutely not the jerk. When will people start accepting the consequences of their actions? And why do other people think they can tell you how you should have responded to her? Your girlfriend should have kept her mouth shut and just held you and let you talk and been there for you. I wouldn't tell your parents you saw her either. That's a band-aid you don't want to rip off. OP says, I won't be telling my parents. If she reached out to me, she can reach out to them the same way, though she told me she won't be doing it. She only reached out to me. Commenter 7 says, not the jerk, but that's a tough situation to be in. Just out of curiosity, why didn't the family accept her then boyfriend? Cultural? Religious? Age? OP says, they just didn't think he would make a good partner, I think. She'd be vouching for him, and they, particularly my mom, would be telling her that, essentially, he's only interested in sex, to put it crudely. There may have been other subconscious reasons, possibly. I don't know, but at least when they talked about it, they would only bring up that he was bad news and that they were looking out for her. Commenter 8, downvoted, says, keep in mind that she might have cut you off because she was scared you would tell your parents anything that she told you. OP says, no. We had coverage for each other so often when I was young. She had coverage for me too. There was stuff that I could only tell her. There could not have been a real fear. I'd even told her friends that I wouldn't tell her parents, but at least ask her to meet up with me. I'm sorry if I sound pointed, but I haven't had to remember all the BS I went through in the aftermath of her elopement in a while, and it's just crazy how she ditched us all. I don't think I can see her. I'd been thinking about it, but meeting her just means everything she put us through was fine. I remember how I felt at the time, and I can't let it go. Update 4 days later. Hi. Thanks a lot to everyone for the support in my post, and to those who reached out for support. I'd been emotionally drained almost after meeting my sister. Like I said, I had made my peace, after a lot of hurt and futile hope that I would never see her again. She had my number, and I hadn't blocked the new number of hers. I thought about it, and received advice to, but I just didn't. It slipped from my mind. She asked me on Tuesday how I was doing and asked if we could meet on Wednesday. She really wanted me to meet her kids. I was really conflicted. I didn't want to oblige her, but I decided to say yes to at least meet them. I went to her apartment yesterday and met my niece and nephew. My niece had recently turned 9, and my nephew is 6. They're great kids, and I really enjoyed seeing them. I remember feeling a certain way when my sister was introducing me, and she told him that the way he's my niece's younger brother, similarly, I'm her younger brother. We talked a bit and started talking about stories from us growing up. I hadn't and still haven't said everything's okay between us, but our stories and conversation went smoothly. I learned that after she eloped and got married, she had moved in with her husband into his place in a town a few hours away from us. That around 2019, they had moved to the city we were currently in. According to her, she didn't know all this time that I later moved here for work after college too. I told her about what I'd been up to all these years, my college, my job, my girlfriend, etc. After that, the kids were in their room, and my sister brought up us all doing something again over the weekend. I told her we weren't okay. She can't expect me to forget everything. She said she was sorry that her moving out had nothing to do with me, that she missed me. I was angry at the fact that she had no idea the pain I'd gone through, both personally and then having to be the crutch for my parents' pain. I told her I didn't believe her, that she would have been perfectly fine with never seeing me again if she hadn't gotten divorced, that I could have been dead, and she probably wouldn't have broken a sweat upon learning it since she was so blissed out from her domestic life. I know it was ugly. I've never said anything like this, but in that moment, I just wanted her to feel some kind of hurt of the kind she'd given me. She broke down and said I can hate her if I want, but to just not hate her forever. There has to be a limit. I regretted saying what I said when I saw her crying, so I just sat next to her and asked about why they'd divorced. She told me that their life had been going all right the first few years. She said she'd even sent word through a mutual when the kids were born, which either the mutual messed up or my sister did because we never heard about it. She said when COVID happened, her marriage became hell for her, that it had uncovered a side of her ex she never knew. He became abusive, had disdain for their son, revealed he used to record every single conversation of theirs, had convinced her she was crazy and a bad wife and mother, that she stuck with him because of the kids until she had enough, that a very good neighbor of theirs, whom she had become friends with, gave her a lot of support and even helped line her up with a job. During all this, she even blamed our parents for her sticking with the marriage for so long and for not reaching out. I told her they had literally pleaded with her not to do this. I was there. I was 18, not 8. She said they told her she was dead to them if she ran off with him, and so she blamed them for her not being able to leave him. I told her that was insane logic, and she just didn't want to talk about them and asked me not to tell them about her. I said, yeah, her relationship with them is her own. I also asked her who had given her my address. She begged me not to ask her that they hadn't given it easily. She'd had to swear secrecy and cry and convince them that I'd want to see my older sister, so I dropped it. We had tea and snacks after that. She asked me again if I wanted to do anything this weekend since she has the kids, or we could do something the weekend after, just the two of us. I said, I don't know. She was okay with that answer. She was tearful again when I was leaving. We hugged, and I hugged the kids goodbye too. My mind has been a mess since then. I lashed out and everything, but also regret what I said. But then I also try to remember how I had felt back then and then get angry again. It feels so weird knowing that she's now 20 minutes away from me and we can visit whenever. I told my girlfriend about all this. She said she supports me no matter what, but, in her opinion, to consider the weekend plan with a cool mind. This got long. I apologize, but I've been trying to collect my own thoughts on this, and writing this just seemed to help. Thanks for the help. Scaling Stories Corner. So part of me thinks OP's sister had rose-colored glasses on when she was in the relationship with her ex, and her parents saw that and didn't really want her to end up with him. I think telling her that she'd be dead to them if she ran off with him was a bad decision to do as a parent. That definitely fueled some part in her blocking them and also going ghost. But I think she also has to take some accountability for her actions, that she got blinded and also made bad decisions. She can't put the blame solely on her parents, that's why she was stuck in that relationship for so long. And also, she went ghost on her family for 9 years, and her niece is 9. So I'm thinking that maybe she was pregnant at the time she ran away, and that is part of the reason why she was so love blind to her ex and did not listen to her parents like at all. I don't think OP's parents knew about the pregnancy, or if they did, that was extremely heartless and cruel. But this feels like way too much to drop on someone's lap. Like, if I'm OP and I'm suddenly meeting my sister who I haven't seen or spoken to in 9 years, and she's introducing me to her children, and she's making plans and everything for us to hang out in the weekend, like all under 2 days, I think that's too much. OP needs time to process everything, and it feels like she's overstepping boundaries to try and get herself back into his life as if nothing has changed. And that's wrong of her. I do understand if she's lonely and wants to find family again, but she needs to do it with consideration of how other people are feeling too, and not treating other people like they're NPCs who will react the way she wants to. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, "Don't let her push you into immediately pretending everything is fine and going back to how things were. She still isn't taking responsibility for the harm she did. You didn't mention she ever apologized for ghosting you. She's blaming your parents for her choices. She needs to admit she did this to herself and to you, or that hurt and resentment is never going away. If she won't tell you who gave her your address, she has no interest in what you want, only what she wants, and she will manipulate you and them again and again to get what she wants." Commenter 2 says, "I'm glad you and your sister talked. I'm late to the party, but I was in a similar boat recently, and my sister is now married to a woman. So, good luck, OP. That's a great moment to just at least hear one another out on what's happened, one another's view. That doesn't mean you're forced to do anything, but at least you have the ability to decide if this is something you could pursue. My sister came from a DV relationship, and so did I. The fact that we're both still alive and able to talk about our crappy parents is a huge support beam in my system. She is still recovering, and so am I, but we have one another, and she has her awesome wife. Just take some time off the internet and enjoy a day where you relax. Go out for a nice coffee and lunch, maybe to the park, all on your own, and just think. Allow yourself to cry in your car. Talk to yourself. Have a you day with self-care, or maybe a day in. Cuddle up in warm pillows, creating/drawing, but I really recommend getting out of the house, off the internet. Do a dopamine media detox for a day, basically, and let yourself feel and think." OP says, "I'm going to try and clear my mind. Thanks. I've been thinking this again and again, that I should do what makes me happy, and maybe that is being able to reconnect with her and her kids. And then I think that's letting her off too easy. I was in pain back then, trying to reach out. What about that? It's been emotionally taxing. Your advice about taking some time off is good." Second update, 11 days later. Hi. I'd been getting a lot of moral support and advice from a lot of people here, which I appreciate. A few people had asked how things have gone, so I told my sister I couldn't spend Thanksgiving weekend with her. Partly because maybe I still wasn't in the right headspace for something like that, and also because I had to go to my parents for that weekend, and normally, when I go there, I usually end up staying over for the entire weekend. She said okay, asked me not to tell them that she was back in my life, and I said fine. It wasn't my place, and besides, my parents had come to terms with her absence a while back. It was a bit surreal, for sure, to be with my parents and have this secret with me. We were spending the weekend like a complete family while my sister was at her apartment, and knowing this was weird. When I was back, she asked if I wanted to hang out next weekend, the one that had just passed. Her kids would be with their dad, so the two of us could hang out. I know what a lot of commenters had said. I appreciate all their advice, but I had tried to clear my head, and my girlfriend had just told me to do whatever makes me happy. I did think about it, and I honestly decided that hanging out with her on Saturday would make me happier than not doing it. It wasn't about her, it was for myself, so I went to her apartment on Saturday. She asked me how our parents were doing. I said they were doing well now. Since she was the one who mentioned them, I asked her if she wanted to reconnect with them. It might be better for both her and maybe them, but she said no and just repeated that line about them saying she was dead to them. It was clearly something said in the heat of the moment, but I didn't push her on it again. We just went to the mall, bought some clothes, then had dinner at her place and watched a movie. It was a light hangout in general. The conversation flowed smoothly. It obviously wasn't like it used to be, partly because I still keep thinking about how I felt when she had left us, about how I had to support our parents emotionally in the aftermath, and partly because she has changed a bit. She's a lot more anxious and nervous now than I remember her. But in general, it was a chill hangout. I did bring up that I'd like to know who gave her my address, that at this point I didn't regret that they had given it to her, but still, they shouldn't do that. She got defensive and begged me not to ask her that they hadn't given it easily. She'd had to plead and cry and promise that she'd take a rejection if that's what I did, and that she'd sworn secrecy. So again, I dropped it. It's whatever, I guess. I left, and we said we'll meet up again soon. I had received a lot of comments saying I was stupid, that I had no self-esteem, that I was being used. I just would like you to understand that this isn't an abstract concept for me like it might be for you. This is my sister, the same sister who I grew up with, who helped me with school projects and helped me out in a ton of ways when I was growing up. And yes, the same sister who ghosted us for 9 years. I'm still angry about that, but like I said, I'm only doing what I want for myself, not out of some guilt now. And look, so far, I'm down a Subway's fare worth of dollars to visit her and a few hours at the mall. I'm fine with that loss. If, after all this, she ups and ghosts me again in the future for whatever reason, I've made my peace with that, and may we all get what we deserve in that case. Thank you for all the help. ScalingStories Corner. So I'm thinking because the parents are obviously on the no contact list, then OP's sister must have either begged his girlfriend or one of his friends to give her his contact information and address. It doesn't make sense for someone else in the family that's not OP's mom or dad, like an uncle or aunt, because I think they probably would have told his mom or dad. I think it's pretty messed up that she begged this person to leak OP's information, but I also support not selling that person out. I don't think that person should have sold OP out, but I'm just saying that like now that they have, the sister should at least not stab their informant in the back. I think a relationship between OP and his sister where they slowly reconnect over time with various hangouts makes sense if that's what OP wants. Like he said at the start of his update, he was definitely overwhelmed by how he was approached by his sister beforehand, and it really takes time for him to accept his sister being back into his life. Third update, 1 month, 3 weeks later. A few people had asked how things were going. I'd taken a bit of a break because it's just complicated, and I felt asking others' input was hurting more than helping. My sister and her kids and I had been meeting up whenever we could find time, and it was enriching. Like I liked that we were spending time, regardless of a lot of feedback saying I was being had. I went to my parents for Christmas and New Year's holiday. During that period, there had been a couple of gatherings with the entire family, uncles and aunts and cousins. It was in those gatherings, I guess, that I contextualized the extent to which my sister's actions had affected our family. All the other families were full, all siblings and kids, some of them with their spouses and young kids of their own. Ours was torn, and the entire extended family would still walk on eggshells sometimes. None of my cousins had to listen to their mom cry about their estranged sister while in college, studying for exams and midterms and whatnot. I also realized I had been lying by omission to my parents about something huge, the whereabouts of their daughter, whom they still love and worry about. My relationship with them is one that has sustained and withstood. So, a couple of weeks ago, I told my sister as much, that asking me to keep a secret like this wasn't fair. I was kind about it. I didn't lash out, didn't try to make her feel bad about everything we'd been put through. She was the one who got heated, saying our parents had told her she was dead to them, that she was facing hell while they had left her to die. I then brought up that they were the ones who did their best to prevent her from ending up in that situation, and she was the one who had left because she thought she knew better, because she cared more about her boyfriend than her entire family, whom she cut all contact with. She didn't budge on not talking to our parents, and I, too, said that we can't be talking then. I'm not risking a stable relationship for one that had proved to be flaky. That may have crossed a line because that led to tears. We didn't tell my niece and nephew that I won't be seeing them for a while. I don't know what she's going to explain to them. It's painful for me too. Since then, my sister hasn't said anything on text, just sent pictures or videos, like she was already doing, of the kids or what was made for dinner a few times. I've heart reacted but said nothing either. I do hope we can come to a resolution on her end and the kids get to be close to their uncle and their grandparents. Scaling Stories Corner. To be honest, I didn't think about the lying by omission part from OP's perspective. I thought it was probably okay to be meeting his sister on the side and not telling his parents because that's not what she wants. And slowly rebuilding a relationship, if OP wants, of course. But that discards OP's feelings as a person when he has to go to family events and actually interact with his parents, knowing full well they still miss their daughter and how his family is broken over it. And I agree with him that it's not fair for him to keep their meetings a secret, and that if she's trying to reconnect with him, then she should at least talk to his parents that she's back in his life, even if she's not going to be back in theirs. She might feel the utmost hatred towards her parents, regardless of who was right or wrong. Like, I'm not saying whose side is right here, but it is wrong to make OP stay silent while she wants to rebuild a relationship with him and also not allow him to speak about her to the rest of the family. Because again, OP is not a random NPC. He has his own feelings and relationships that he's feeling like he's betraying by staying quiet. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, I'm glad your sister is safe, but it's really not fair for her to put your relationship with your parents in danger. Are you going to tell your parents that you heard from her? OP says, no, I won't. I won't take that decision from her. That's her call. If that's why she didn't contact me once all this time, it's unbelievable that she thought I would have. Commenter 2 says, yikes, I feel like there's something missing. Like, were your parents somehow abusing her, which drove her into the arms of her ex-husband? Did she cut them and you off because of the "you're dead to me" comments? Maybe her ex weaponized those comments to keep her isolated, and she's too close to the situation to think logically. A lot of time has gone by, and I'm surprised she still feels this strongly. What will she do when they're dead and reunification is impossible? Cry some more? I think you have exceptional moral character by really thinking about your relationship with your parents and not wanting to be complicit in hurting them. OP says, no, my parents have never been abusive. They'd always given us nothing but safety and love. They felt strongly about whom she was dating, but in hindsight, they were right. They said something in the heat of the moment, but were inconsolable in the months after she left, until we all, without actually saying it, had decided to never mention her for our own peace. Commenter 3 says, your sister is putting you in the middle. She wanted you to keep it a secret from your parents that you and her were in contact, yet she won't reveal who told her your address. Why is she protecting this other person but doesn't appreciate the position you're in, especially if your parents did find out that you had been meeting with her and their grandchildren? She doesn't seem to understand the emotional distress she's putting you under and appeared flippant when you mentioned that she had also blocked you all those years ago. Seems like a one-sided relationship to me. There's still too much unresolved hurt and emotion going on here. Maybe a little break might help you to clear your head a little and help you decide what part you want to play in this whole mess. Good luck. Fourth update, 6 months later. Hi, I thought I'd give an update. I was planning on giving one around a few weeks back, like a much more positive one, but it didn't really end up in a good place. In May, I did end up seeing my sister and her kids again because it was my nephew's birthday. My sister and I had been communicating on text, and she'd been sending videos, but not in person. We celebrated his birthday. I gave him his present. We ate cake, wore our party hats, and everything. When we were alone, she asked me how I'd been. When I told her I'd seen my parents the week before, that I go there regularly, she was good with that. Said that was good that I did that regularly. She had asked how they were doing. I thought that since they didn't know about her, she shouldn't be asking either, and said as much. She got really heated, maybe for the first time since we reconnected, said I had no right to withhold information about them. I was genuinely struck by the hypocrisy. She said they were the ones who pronounced her dead. She didn't pronounce them dead. We argued. I held my line. I told her if she wants to see them, have the kids know their grandparents, she has to tell them. She can settle her issues with them at her own pace, but at least tell them. She repeated that line again about them saying she was dead to them. I said if she's going to take it to heart rather than the outburst it was, then she can't ask for updates on how they're doing. The dead don't do that. We changed the topic because the kids were playing. A couple of weeks later, she asked me to ask them to call her. I spoke to her about how we couldn't have them know that I'd known for so long. It would shatter them. She thankfully agreed and said she'd tell the kids too, to say they met me a few days ago. I told my parents that she'd come to my place a few days ago, that she was divorced and had 2 kids. My mom started crying on the phone and having difficulty breathing. They ended up calling her. She didn't tell them her address, but was meeting them the next day, and I was going too. I was going to update then, actually. I thought my sister and my parents could reconcile, and it seemed like they did at first. My sister collapsed into my mom's arms. They were gentle. They were in love with her kids. I later took the kids to KFC for a light mood while my sister and parents reconciled. When we came back, the mood was different. My sister was arguing with them, saying that every day of abuse she went through was because they had orphaned her. My parents said they knew he was not worthy of her, but my sister wasn't listening to that. She soon just wanted to leave. Since then, my sister and my parents have been in contact. They have visited her place and she has gone to theirs but just goes to her room while my parents spend time with her kids. We did spend last weekend at my parents' and it's still the same thing. This will be my last time posting here about this, and thanks to everyone who helped me navigate this. Scaling Stories Corner. So, it sounds like at least she's reconciled with her parents a bit. She's like a bit cold right now with them, but at least she's taking her kids to the parents' house so they can spend time together. I think from all the information OP has presented, it really does seem like the sister is taking a major lack of accountability for her actions in leaving. And yes, the parents saying if she ran off with her boyfriend, then she'd be dead to them was harsh. But she was at the same time not listening to anything her parents were saying when they supposedly identified her boyfriend was not good for her. And it's like unknown if they saw toxic, abusive traits with him at the time or if that developed later. But it's wrong. No. They said they saw him as like a sex fiend demon that like he only wanted her for her body. But yeah, I don't know if like the other abusive traits from him were showing at that time. But it's wrong of her to blame her parents to say that like every day she was abused was their fault because she was like orphaned by them. And OP says he's not going to give any more updates, so I hope for his family's sake that they stay on cordial terms and that maybe one day his sister and his parents can actually get on good terms and leave the past in the past. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, "Your sister was an adult when she made her choices, but acts like she was somehow forced against her will to move away and cut contact. She also seems very manipulative and immature. Sounds like you're all better off without her, unfortunately." Commenter 2 says, "I am glad your parents and sister are talking and trying their best. They have been through a lot, but I can't fathom how selfish your sister is being right now. Her defensiveness is understandable, but so self-destructive. Also, if I were you, I would still want to know who shared my contact details. You have a right to know from a safety point of view too." OP says she won't tell, says she swore secrecy, said that person trusted her, that she had to cry and beg for it, that I only have one sister, so there's no one else who could convince them anymore anyway, since they wouldn't have given it to any random. I don't like it, but what can I do at this point? Okay friends, so that concludes today's video. Leave a like and comment down below to let me know what you thought of it, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.